Four. I'm the Director of Human Rights and Accessibility for the City of Worcester. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Accessibility Advisory Commission. We have a guest with us this evening who I've already let in and is waiting to make a light presentation to us. I'm going to take a roll call of the members present. This is a completely virtual meeting, but we are recording the meeting as we're required to. So if you do not agree to being recorded, you should leave the meeting, as that one quite fine point is not going to change. Today, excuse me, is January 20th, 2026, and it's 4:33 p.m. So roll call of the members present, please. Chair Robert Bureau.
Here.
Vice Chair Elizabeth Miska.
Vice Chair Elizabeth Miska here on the phone.
Thank you. Member John Finn.
John Finn here.
Member Dee Karuna.
Dee Karuna here.
Member Kate McGrath.
Kate McGrath here.
Very good. Thank you all for being here and devoting your time to this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to hand the agenda over to our chair, Bob Bureau, so he can run through the items on the agenda and kick off the meeting. Thanks,
Great.
Bob.
Thank you, Patricia. The first agenda item is to approve the minutes from our December meeting. And if you were not at the meeting, as I was not at the meeting, then you should abstain from voting, but otherwise vote. Are there any changes to the minutes before we ask for a motion in a second? Okay, not hearing any. Patricia, if you could do a roll call vote in terms, or actually we need a motion in a second, right?
Correct.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion that we accept the minutes?
This is Liz Miska. I make a motion to approve minutes.
Okay, in a second.
This is Dee. I second.
Okay, great. If you could do a roll call vote, Patricia, that'd be great.
Very good. So we have a motion to approve the December meeting minutes made by Liz, seconded by Dee Karuna. Roll call of the members present, please. Bob Bureau, Chair.
Abstain.
Vice Chair Elizabeth Miska.
Liz Miska votes yes.
Members John Finn.
I abstain.
Dee Karuna.
Yes.
Kate McGrath.
Kate McGrath, yes.
Well, that's a very interesting position we're in because we only have 2 yeses, 2 abstentions. I'm going to say that the motion carries by virtue of the fact that we do have 2 members who were voting yes and the abstentions. I will say this in the future. You don't need to abstain if you weren't present at the meeting because you're not voting to verify the accuracy of the minutes. You're just verifying that these are the minutes of the meeting. So in the future, don't feel like you have to abstain if you weren't present. But going forward, we will consider this passed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is to hear from our guest, Joshua Rickman from the WRTA. We have a couple of members of our commission that are also going to join the conversation after he makes a presentation. And that would be Kate and Liz. So welcome, Joshua. Look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those who haven't met me, my name is Josh Rickman. I'm the administrator for the WRTA. I've been in this position since about August of 2023 and just appreciate, again, the opportunity to talk to you all today and talk about some of the big projects we have going on here at WRTA. So the first thing I'll share about, which I'm sure we'll circle back to at the end, is WRTA, since this fall, has been meeting with what we're calling our Vision Impaired Task Force. So basically, through our engagements, through our writer forums, through our conversations with CLW, with individuals in this group, we've certainly heard from everyone that there's been some challenges about some of the accessibility at the WRTA Central Hub. Paramount of these issues is that the routes that come to the hub are not assigned to a bus slip. So basically here at the WRTA hub, we have 8 bus slips where the buses come in and pull in and out of, drop passengers on and off of. We actually have 24 bus routes that provide service to the hub, and they attribute to over 800 arrivals and departures per day. So historically, we've been kind of challenged through a math problem where we basically have a lot of service coming to a confined space, which basically prevents us from basically assigning buses to specific slips. Some of the reasons we can't assign them is one, too many buses, too many bus routes, too many arrival departures, but also the fact that we encounter delay while on the routes. We have tried to account for that through some analysis we did back last spring, but no matter what I do for my own analysis or other people, we still will have conflicts, which means that routes would have to share a bus slip, which again create even more confusion for people saying we're assigning a bus to a slip and now it can't pull in there because of delays. So that was the paramount reason why we met with this group. And participating in this task force, we had certainly the Accessibility Advisory Committee here. We had the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. We had CMRPC. We had the Department of Transportation Mobility represented. We had our rider rep from the advisory board, our disabled commuter rider rep, as well as some representatives from the board who are VIPs. So we tried to get a good cross section of the public. Individuals that represent VIPs, individuals that are VIPs themselves to represent that conversation. And really the idea of that group is to create kind of a sounding board, a way in which we can interact back and forth to understand some of the challenges and really understand the experiences. Based off of that, we did have a walkthrough with the Mass Commission of Blind on December 30th with certain members of the task force, just again to circle back and have a better understanding. Since that time, WRTA has begun work with our on-call architecture and engineering firm. We procured that services over 2 years ago. It basically assists us with all the engineering work, architectural work we have here locally. And using some of that feedback from the VIP group, using some internal information, we're developing a task order with that group to identify ways in which we can expand the capacity of the WRTA Central Hub, maybe adding in some additional slips to help allow for assignment of bus bays, as well as start to think about some new technologies that we've learned about or learned from the VIP group about, including NaviLens, which the MBTA uses on some of their commuter lines, which is basically a QR code which assists people with visual impairments to provide better accessibility through some of the commuter rail stations, as well as hearing from the group called Right Here, which works with the Worcester Public Library. So included in that work with our architect engineering firm, we're going to be thinking about other technologies we could use to improve accessibility here at the hub. So again, we're super excited about this advancement. I think assigning bays will certainly will help our VIPs. Will certainly help all of our riders. In my engagements with a lot of the riders, having a base assigned would be very important for them as well. Related to that, we have started to think about other routing concepts, which I'll talk about later in the presentation, which includes things like crosstown routes or limited stop routes, which might help, which might reduce the amount of volume here, but improve the regional resiliency of our system by creating new connection opportunities throughout the network. So that's pretty much where I am on the VIP side. Do you guys want me to keep going, or should I take questions about the VIP group for now?
Kate and Liz, would you like to weigh in now or later?
Kate here. Liz can weigh in. I would say you could keep going, unless Liz has a different opinion on that.
This is Liz. I would say keep going, Joshua. I'm making notes so we can circle back.
Awesome. Sounds great. So the next thing I have, which is related to this project, is the Central Hub lobby renovation. So for those of you who have been by the hub recently or ridden the bus recently, you'll notice that our Central Hub lobby has been closed. This is related to a renovation project we've had on the books. The advisory board approved this about a year ago. And so the idea of the Central Hub renovation is to basically enhance the experience of individuals at the Central Hub. First, we need to increase seating capacity. As many are aware, our ridership has increased over the last couple of years, and we need more seats for people that are visiting the hub. In addition to that, we're also trying to create new dedicated spaces for individuals with wheelchairs. So there'll be 2 positions within the lobby dedicated for wheelchair users. We're also going to establish a customer service office with an exterior window. Again, for those that are familiar here at the hub, in order to access customer service, you have to physically come into the building. And so the vision here is we'll continue to have an indoor window, but we'll also have an exterior window. So those that need some quick service or quick question can also have their questions answered. And then importantly, through this project, we'll also be reopening the bathrooms. Before this project, we did have 2 single stall closed door bathrooms. Through the renovation project, we will now be changing the bathrooms more of an open concept, similar to what you see at the Worcester Public Library, where there'll be 2 water closets in both areas, allowing for individuals to kind of access that area. We will have that next to our customer service offices, as well as security offices as well. So we are moving fast and furious with that one. Demolition is ongoing, and we anticipate reopening to the public by the end of June of 2026. The next document I just put our attention to is our comprehensive regional transit plan. We will be finishing up that plan in February. This is something we do every 5 years. And the last time WRTA had this done was 2015, then 2020. So this is something that is required via the state legislature, but it's a really important document for the WRTA, as it basically creates a 5-year vision for the authority. You'll basically see in the document existing conditions, some statistics and metrics that are put in there, as well as a lot of mapping activities that identify vulnerable populations within the area, as well as what I would call a transit composite index, or the marketability of transit within the region. Again, we have 37 cities and towns, and basically identifying, what areas can support what service levels for transit services. So we are reviewing kind of the final document, and we anticipate having that available to the public in our website by the end of February. I think really importantly, again, as I kind of alluded to earlier, there are some service concepts coming out of that document, which include crosstown routes, limited stop routes, concept of microtransit, as well as expanding hours and increasing frequency of services. Many of these things will require capital investment, maybe new buses, et cetera, but they will have an impact, on the budget, which is an activity of the advisory board. They approve our budgets, they approve service changes, et cetera. So to properly kind of vet out some of those concepts, we're basically going to be moving those forward with our on-call planning firm to identify, what the costs are, what the trade-offs are, and how we can kind of move that 5-year vision forward, given some of our funding and capital constraints. But again, I think there's some really exciting concepts coming out of that document, and I'll be happy to share that with the commission once we have it produced. Moving forward to a couple of other investments that we've made in the recent time frame, we have rolled out a new fixed route software. So as of January 2nd, we rolled out what we're calling our EQUANS, computer-aided dispatch automatic vehicle location software. So historically, WRTA worked with a company called Clever Devices, and when it was put out back in 2012, 2013, it was a top of the line, fantastic software. But, as all things computer related, technology related, it has become dated over time. And so when I got here, we basically put in our docket to find a way to improve the technology system. So we did that by doing some peer analyses, doing some best practice study, and put out procurement last year. We began kind of the installation process over the fall and wrapped up all the buses by, I think, late November. On many of the buses, you will now see onboard infotainment signs, which is really important. But I think most important coming out of this product for the public is what we would call a general transit feed specification real-time feed. This is really important because historically, that real-time feed that says, here's where the bus is, here's what's going to go, here's a good time of arrival, that was kind of held behind a proprietary door, or was owned by the company we contracted with. But now with this public-facing feed, we can now work with third-party vendors Some I mentioned earlier. We did roll out what's called Transit app, which is a real-time transit feed, and we paid for the Royale subscription so all users of WRTA can use the system and fully and comprehensively. In the coming weeks, we'll work with Google Maps to make sure all the real-time data is there as well. But now, once we get requests from students in WPI or contractors, or we're thinking about other improvements, we can now use this GTFS RT feed to basically advocate and show where our services are, where they can be, so people can make new apps for all members of our public. So I think that alone has been a massive improvement. Not lost on us, and our next step here is now to actually procure demand response software. So those are what we call the vans that provide much of our ADA services or COA services within the region. Similarly to the advancements on the fixed route side, we want to make advancements on the demand response side for customers. This would include kind of where's my bus type of apps, the ability to use an application to know when the bus is coming or the van's coming. One thing for regular users they're accustomed to is we will get a call the night before. Let's say you have a pickup at 4:50 to 5:10. You'll get that call the night before. Well, under the new app, you would still get that phone call, but you'd also get a call that same day. So if the van left at 4:30 to pick you up, you get a call saying the van is on its way. And for many of our consumers, it's really important to have that reassurance that the vehicle is coming. Oftentimes, you're getting picked up at a doctor's office or at a location. So having the ability to know where the van is provides a little more comfort as use of WRTA services. I've only got a couple more things I'm update on. One is there is a rebrand we're actively working on. Some of you might have seen that we're going with a new logo, which you'll see in the top corner here with kind of the two hearts making a W. So we're excited about launching that out. There'll be new buses being wrapped and painted over the next 6 months. The buses are going to be a blue, similar to what the color you see today is, but it's a little more sustainable of a design. Many of our buses have a lot of design, kind of what I call below the window or near the wheel well, and that's very hard to maintain in salty, cold environment of New England. So we're going with a little more design that's a little more sustainable, resilient for the operating environment that we're in. And the vans are going to be white going forward. So it'll provide a lot of contrast between the two services and uniqueness between the two services. I think importantly, the logos on the buses and vans will also be retro-reflective, which will increase the visibility of those during nighttime operations. The second to last thing I have is we also just finished up a demand response survey. So something I've always appreciated during my career is just the importance of conducting surveys with the public. We did a fixed route customer satisfaction survey in 2024, and we followed it up in 2025 demand response survey. And I want to give a shout out to MassDOT. They did provide some technical assistance funding for this project, which was great in order to make it happen. We worked with AECOM to administer the survey as well. Also importantly, this survey was statistically significant, meaning it did have a representation of the public that we serve. And it was really well timed in terms of relationship with the CRTP. So there are a number of service ideas, service concepts coming out of that survey that will provide a really good context as we consider changes here at the WRTA. That is available on our website, and I will throw it in the chat as we do some Q&A. And the last thing I have is just bus stops. This is somewhat in relation to the rebrand, but we are actively working on the bus stops within the region. We have about 1,300 bus stops in the city of Worcester alone, and we have mostly flag stops outside the city of Worcester. So what was really important for us is first to be able to have a good, strong understanding of what the inventory is in the field. So we worked with our on-call planning consultant, Nelson Nygaard, and they collected a whole inventory of what was actually in the fields, and we'll be comparing that to what's with the city's lists. We're also developing guidelines and standards for bus stops. And this is basically saying, what should a standard bus stop have? What should a bus stop with medium level activity have? And what should a bus stop with high activity levels have? And again, really well timed their CAD AVL procurement, because some of those high level, bus stops might need real-time signs, which wasn't possible in the past. And now with the new system, that is something we can actually think about with electrical connections there. The last step of this process will be applying those standards to our bus stops in the field today, and basically saying, do we have bus stops are too close together? Are they too far apart? What bus stops need to have improved amenities like seating, et cetera? And that'll be kind of the third step towards that process. And while beyond the city lines of Worcester, this will also be very helpful for a number of our communities that want to install fixed route infrastructure like bus stops along their sidewalks. We'll now have a document to point them to that says, this is the type of stops we need. This is space required to install a proper bus stop. Here's the ADA requirements, et cetera. So again, we're trying to accomplish a lot with that document, but I think it's well timed with all the advancements and conversations that we're having. And those are the 7 main items I had for everyone today, but happy to answer any other questions anyone might have.
This is Kate. Josh, thank you so much for that presentation and going through everything. Liz, are you here?
Yes,
Do you
sorry,
want to start,
I-
or do you want me to?
sure,
Okay.
sure. So this
Thank
is
you,
Liz
Josh,
Miska.
for
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. This is Josh.
Okay, all right, sorry, Kate, I didn't know if you could hear me as well. Okay, so this is Liz Miska, and just for the record, I am a visually impaired person, and I did participate, not as thoroughly as Commissioner Kate McGrath, in the VIP task force. And I do want to thank Josh, the WRTA, and the City of Worcester for being thoughtful and considerate about including, you know, a wide array of stakeholders in the visually impaired community in thinking about fixed bus routes. But I always return to choice, and in this case, my choice is not to ride the fixed bus route. Why? Well, for a variety of reasons. I would also not choose, if I was a fixed bus route rider, to go to the hub as a visually impaired person. Why? Because a lot of it depends upon my skills, which I have developed skills as a visually impaired person, but a lot on site. And Joshua mentioned the lack of slips and the fact that there are amenities being proposed and installed that supposedly will address those things, but they all still come down to, I can't see the buses coming in. I can't see, even if I'm providing information on my phone, on my app, saying it's coming, it's arriving, it's departing, I can't see the bus. I can't see where it is. I can't maneuver my body over to where it is going to land and depart. So from that standpoint, that I would not be a user. And I think my difficulty is thinking in terms of visually impaired people riding the fixed bus routes. Yes, there are people who ride the fixed bus routes. They also ride the on-demand paratransit. That's their choice. But thinking that a regular visually impaired person, a blind person, is going to take the bus, I don't think that is credible, because you need sight in order to do this, and you need to have skills in order to do this. Again, well-intentioned. I laud the effort and the idea of being included. But as a user, I wouldn't be a user of this. And my concern is that money is being allocated for amenities that are not going to be used. And so I think we need to query, if they're not going to be used, then why are they being installed? Josh, you mentioned Navalens. I happen to have had a conversation with Laura Braceford from the MBTA about Navalens and about the MBTA's trial of Navalens. The MBTA has concluded, nope, we're not going to do it because it's too costly and people aren't using it. So and again, I know everybody gets gaga about technology. I'm a dinosaur. I don't use technology to the extent that probably people would argue that I should. But again, that's my choice. So I'm very concerned that because I believe, as part of the task force, I heard, and please correct me, Josh, if I'm mistaken, that some of the amenities that were, and you indicated the advisory, your advisory board has already authorized these things, are intended to be installed as soon as next month with a price tag. And my preference would be to have pilots done in real time, have VIPs, not just go down to the hub as, oh, if this is going here, that's going there, that's helpful. But then say, okay, even if this is installed, would you come down here and use it? And I, I bet my bottom dollar that most people are going to say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I do want to touch on the lobby renovations, but I want to allow you, Josh, to ask me any questions. Again, this is not intended, I'm not intended to be insulting or offensive, but I'm just concerned that there's going to be an outlay of money and that ultimately the public, and particularly the visually impaired public, is not going to use it. And there's going to be resentment about that, like, why didn't you tell us this, or why didn't you check with us before you did this? So I want to give you an opportunity to ask me, anything you would like. And if you don't have any questions for me in particular, or anyone else doesn't, because again, I'm the real McCoy. I would be the person that you are targeting here. Otherwise, I will yield to Kate McGrath.
Kate, would you like to, sorry, should I
Yes.
respond now, or do you want me to?
It's up to
keep
you.
going?
Do you want to respond to Liz and then I'll go, or you want me to go?
Sure. I'll respond to Liz. And
Okay.
Liz, thank you so much for your comments and all of your time you provided WRTA and insight you've provided as well. So I think one thing you mentioned, which I did not mention in the presentation today, is WRTA will be installing real-time signs at the WRTA Central Hub in late February. They'll be activated. I appreciate your comments. I would say that the real-time signs, well, yes, we do have components, including the Falcon text-to-speech button, which is designed to be compliant with the ADA. Those real-time signs are also just for all of our consumers, the whole cross-section of them. So I don't necessarily think that I think the money's being spent with a very strong purpose. I believe that the text-to-talk speech buttons provide a vast improvement towards the audible level at the hub. Right now, those come out of the speakers overhead, and under the new design, they'll actually be more localized, so to control the sound volume, which should be a little more responsive towards what we've heard from all of our riders, which I think is a very, very important fact. In addition to the lobby renovation, there was a process in which we have to follow, of course. All of our buildings, facilities have to comply with ADA. The board must approve, all of the changes to our to the operating environment that we're in terms of the facility and construction. So there was a process that followed. I don't think I'd be doing my job if I didn't continue to push for advancements and push for change. That's one of the reasons why, I am here as the administrator. So I think if it's talking about adding in additional bus slips to allow for assignment, which is required for study, if it means going in for new technologies, whether or not it's used by everyone, it does create new realities for many people. So, I do think the money's being spent with a very good purpose, in mind. It's trying to basically not just approach one group, but many groups. And I think just us trying to be cognizant that, you know, we want to reach out and want to have more conversations with VIPs about what we can do further, you know, is important. And cost is important. And, you know, whether or not you're, you know, getting down to the bus stop or coming to the hub, you want to make sure it's as comfortable as possible. And the way that I know to do the best is by, you know, communication. So, you know, that's why we've kind of put some investments forward. That's why we've been trying to actively look for some change. And, you know, 8 slips is enough for 24 routes and 800 plus, you know, arrivals and departures. So we're going to do everything we can to make it more accessible and more accommodating for all of our users.
Liz, would you like to respond to Josh before I go on?
This is Liz. The only thing I would say again is if we're not going, if I and other members of the visually impaired population, Josh, are not going to the hub, then I'm wondering how you're trying to lure us onto the bus, onto the fixed route bus, and I don't mean lure in an antagonistic way, but I'm already telling you I am not going to be a fixed route bus rider. So no matter what you do, no matter how, you know, and I acknowledge there are other there are elders, people with other challenges other than me who will be bus riders, but it seems the focus here was on intentionally getting visually impaired people to ride the fixed bus route. And for the reasons that I explained, I know I'm only one, but I have brought numerous visually impaired people down to the hub, not only on that December 30th, but I usually at least twice a year, 3 times a year, I take my walking group down there, which contains cane users, service animal users, you know, visually impaired people. We were there on January 10th. That's when we discovered the lobby renovation, which I know you had talked about. And we were accompanied by an orientation mobility instructor, not the person who was there from the Commission for the Blind on December 30th. And she was appalled. She was absolutely appalled and said, I would never bring any of my consumers down here because this is a nightmare. It's a nightmare if you can't see. So no matter how you address it, if you can't see, you are unlikely to venture there. And that's why I'm saying it's not that the expenditure is wasteful. It's, are you being prudent in spending the money on that? We know, and I believe Kate is going to talk about this, we know that many visually impaired people do ride paratransit as opposed to a few riding the fixed bus route. Wouldn't it be more prudent to put capital there rather than on the fixed bus route? And now I yield to Kate.
Thank you, Liz. This is Kate. I want to piggyback on what Liz said. First, Josh, thank you so much for having this task force with the goal of helping improving experience for VIPs. I will second everything that Liz said. And before I get into, I will say, I used to use the fixed route before I got sicker to use paratransit. And when I used to work downtown, I used the bus every single day, Monday through Friday. And yes, it is very chaotic there with the bus slips. You never really know where your bus is going to be. And then you see it and you think it's going to go there. And I'm on the other side of the hub. And I'm running to get to that bus before it leaves, and they don't see somebody, they leave. Not everyone can run, but I can't imagine being visually impaired down on that hub. It is chaotic with where the buses are going, the people, the riders, the non-riders. If I were to ever lose my vision of what I see now as someone with sight, and as a woman, I would never feel comfortable to use the hub because I don't think I'd be able to navigate it. And as Liz with lived experience was saying, she's saying it too, and she lives this. So my mindset when we were in the VIP task force meetings, you're talking about these buttons that going to be implemented, as you mentioned, in February. This seemed to be, a large investment. I'm just a little concerned that maybe we need to step back and focus on what will help VIPs and at the same time help people with disabilities and the elderly, which we are all majority use paratransit. And paratransit is in need of improvement. There's quite some archaic implementations. I would love hearing the update you mentioned about the call saying the van is on the way. The call system is one of the things that I felt to be archaic, but I really feel that you were mentioning investing in technologies for the hub and fixed route to make it accessible. But the reality is VIPs, people with disabilities like myself, we rely on paratransit. And I feel that maybe the WRTA should invest more in that. And as someone who's from Boston who used to use the ride, I see the positives of their system. And they use more vans, they use cabs that are MBTA staff. And I just want to put it to you and ask you, why aren't we investing in paratransit with real-time feed, with a better system to even book our trips online, which is a lot of hiccups with that. I'm just, piggybacking on the whole goal to help VIPs. Improving and investing in paratransit would essentially help VIPs along with other people with disabilities and the elderly who rely on paratransit. And there's a lot of areas of improvement there. So I'm just curious, is there a consideration to invest in paratransit like you're doing for the fixed bus route?
Yes, as I shared my presentation, we are turning our attention to a brand new, again, technology for the software, for the real time, for all of that information. So we'll be creating customer-facing tools, the whole 9 yards. There's a couple of RTAs locally that have gone down similar procurement paths the last couple of years, so we can take some lessons learned from there as well. But it's 100% on our to-do list to procure a new demand response software for the paratransit demand response riders of the region. We do operate some level of demand response services in all 37 communities we provide services in. I would state that for the city of Worcester, we do blanket coverage ADA services. So under the ADA, we're required to provide services in 3/4 mile of a fixed route bus line. The city of Worcester, that actually means that we blanket the entire city. So all users of the ADA, or eligible users that service the ADA, they do provide services, which is well above and beyond what the ADA calls for. We keep referencing, the investments being made at the hub, and I just do want to reiterate that this, yes, while we haven't made the VIP task force, that wasn't an intent to lure people on the system. That was an intent to have a conversation with those that experience it, to have a better learning experience here for WRTA and our staff. So I apologize that was caused any confusion. The investments that we make, must comply with ADA. So if it is a real-time sign, well, then we need to make sure that we have an ADA push-to-talk button that's assigned to that. We can't not have that. So I think that the initiatives we're trying to talk about, whether it's adding additional slips, having conversation with you all, making sure that when we go out to our architect engineering firm, we're making sure this is grounded in the need to improve accessibility. I certainly can't encourage, I can't cause change without creating some change and doing some more analysis. So that's kind of where we are with this. Whether it be, improving the accessibility of our bus stops, providing more guidelines for our bus stops, which all users use, making sure they're compliant with the ADA, whether you're creating new investments for technology, making sure those are compliant with the ADA, that is what we're doing currently. But certainly our goal is to make sure that we have a good understanding of all of our customers, to make a good understanding of what the experiences that they go through, and make sure we're having those understandings here locally. So, I really do appreciate all of the input, and it's not lost to me how important this is. One thing that Kate, you also mentioned, is MBTA staff operating the vehicles. So just one thing I do want to clear up here is that the MBTA's enabling legislation and the WRTA's enabling legislation are two different things. The RTAs operate under Chapter 161B, and basically under that, we are not allowed to basically directly operate services. So we have to contract out everything that we operate. There's a total of 8 WRTA staff people, so we cannot directly operate services. We must contract out those services. So there definitely are some differences between what the MBTA does and what the RTAs do as well. The MBTA can run a deficit. The RTAs must have we cannot run a deficit. We cannot run debt spending. So that there are certainly differences between the RTAs and the MBTA when it comes down to some of the operational flexibility that they might have versus what we have.
This is Kate. Joshua, thank you for that clarification. What I meant by that statement, just to clarify as well, is that the staff that operate the vans are very different than the staff who are operating the paratransit yellow cab drivers. And the yellow cab driver experience is dramatically different than the experience with the staff operating the vans of paratransit. Both need large improvements, and that is why, as a paratransit user and as someone who was part of both WRTA VIP task force meetings, I just feel that with the goal of helping VIPs with the WRTA, like Liz was saying, it's not by improving the hub and the bus slip issue. It's really, we need to invest in paratransit. So what I meant by that statement of staff, I'm just saying the van drivers that are driving the WRTA vans with WRTA hats and coats and what may have you, they're very different than the cab drivers that are driving the yellow cabs that are, I know, contracted to keep up with the demand. That's what I meant by that. So my apologies. I do want to ask one more question before I yield back to Liz. Was there any other improvements the WRTA has on their forefront for paratransit besides what you mentioned with the calls and everything? Is there any other future investments you guys are thinking of to improve the paratransit services, which would help all populations, VIPs, people with disabilities, and the elderly?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So one thing that you'll see in our CRTP, so sneak peek, is we are looking at actually doing a paratransit study. So our peers up in Lowell, LRTA, they conducted a paratransit study. And for us, it's really important that we kind of take this on holistically. Again, we do provide services to 37 cities and towns. And whether we're dealing with the rural isolation issue and individuals living in some of those communities needing those services, or changes that we've heard about from the CLW about things that might be needed here in Worcester, I think it's time that we kind of take, like you said, a step back and take a look at this kind of comprehensively and say, what can we do? What are the best practices out there? What are the changes that we can consider here locally to make improvements for the whole? So that is something that we will be moving on in the near term to have that holistic conversation, get everyone onto a single technology backbone for locally. So we're dispatching off of one type of product, which would be very good for us as well. So there's a number of things we're looking at to continue to enhance, as well as the survey results that I put in the chat here for the demand response survey. So certainly there are some action items related to that as well. And thank you for the clarification about the drivers there, and I'll certainly think long and hard about those comments. Appreciate that.
Are there other comments or questions for Josh? Or do Kate or Liz want to follow up in any way?
This is Kate. I'm not sure if Liz has any more to say, but I just want to say, Joshua, thank you for, what you do and putting, technology investments and investments in general on your forefront. I hope we can continue this conversation about paratransit and how we can improve paratransit. There are many areas where we can make it better. And I think that would help everybody across the board and get VIPs and everyone. But I'll yield back. I know I'm being repetitive, but I think just being part of that task force and hearing the goals and then hearing the strategies, I think we need to take a step back and realize that the real solution is investing in paratransit. I will end with that and I will yield back. And Liz, if you have anything else to say, but thank you again for everything that you guys been doing for WRTA.
And this is Liz. I want to echo what Kate is saying, but also I am wondering, and this is a question for you, Bob, and you, Patricia, is this topic of accessibility at the hub, not only for VIPs, visually impaired people, but for riders, potential riders with disabilities? Is this something that we as a commission should be taking up and having a more and being more front and center? As Joshua said at the beginning, this task force was a sounding board. So I yield to whoever wants to tackle that.
Yeah, go ahead, Patricia. I'd like to hear from you.
I mean, my personal and professional opinion would be that it would be a good topic for this commission to take up. But, I'm the staff liaison, I'm the moderator, so I can't dictate that to all of you, but certainly it's absolutely worthy. I'm personally interested in this issue. I see the shortcomings of the paratransit with our own staff in the office. We have issues with transport with many members of various communities in Worcester. And I do think that there's room to make some substantial improvements based upon all of your input from your various areas of expertise, background, experience.
So as the chair, I'm wondering, Josh, how can we provide more consistent feedback to you than waiting until the next time that you come before us? Is there some informal or formal mechanism by which we can be of assistance to the WRTA to make it as accessible as can be, and to see those improvements come to fruition?
No, thank you for the opportunity to respond to that. So there's many ways. I think Kate and Liz would certainly attest. I'm very accessible. If you guys want to get a hold of me, it's pretty easy. I'm happy to talk to any of you guys. If you guys want to come to the hub, if you want to, I'll come to your meeting, whatever it is. I'm available via email. We have feedback forums. I mean, there's many ways in which you can get a hold of me. I think if this is something coming from the committee as a whole, I think maybe a more formal, interaction might be required. Maybe a letter from the committee might be appropriate about what we're trying to accomplish. But I'm happy to handle it informally, formally, however we can. But as I've shared with the VIP task force, I've shared with other people, if I've heard something, I am doing something about it. So whether it is making sure that I'm informing people that we're putting a real-time sign up that will have an AD accessibility feature, if it is to say we're going to turn this over to A&E firm to think about additional slips and design challenges that I've inherited that are here currently. I listen and I try to improve. So that's part of my responsibility. So I would say I'm happy to talk to you each individually. I'm happy to respond via email. I'm happy to do something more formally, but I'm open and available.
Thank you for that. Before you go, I'd like to, if possible, dive a little deeper into the concerns about paratransit and the steps that are being taken to make it better. So can you recap, Josh, what are the steps that are being taken to make paratransit better? And then if we can hear from Kate and Liz, what are the things that they see could be done? Because they're both reiterating that that's the lever that they'd like to most see addressed with the WRTA.
Sure. So I can respond for administration because, again, some of this conversation is going to service design and service questions, and I do not, unilaterally make service decisions as the administrator. That is something that is presented to the advisory board, approved by the advisory board. That is one of their functions. So in terms of what administratively we're trying to accomplish is, one, we are looking at procuring a new demand response software. The service that we use today is called Stratagen. Again, similar to that fixed route software, it's over a decade old. So a lot of the technology advancements from the previous decade we do not have in our current engine. So I do believe that we'll see, improved efficiencies, improved routings, through that investment. That's at least what other peers have seen through that, as well as improved customer-facing tools. We're also looking at doing some type of paratransit comprehensive, study, similar to what the LRTA did, to provide kind of some again, a vision forward and how we can how to improve services. I would share that, the what is required of the ADA versus what WRTA does are different things. As I shared, we do blanket coverage the entire city of Worcester, which is above and beyond ADA. We do provide significant services to our rural communities and surrounding communities that are well above and beyond the requirements of the ADA. And WRTA historically, through the advancements to the advisory board, have strongly committed a lot of operational resources into paratransit services. I do believe that there are things that, through the technology advancement that will be improved, that some people will see it, some people, won't see it because they use the technology, but either way, they're going to benefit from it through improved efficiencies and improved routings. So that's going to be a dramatic improvement, as well as the paratransit study, which will also make improvements. In terms of, I think there's a conversation about yellow cab versus, other van drivers. That's certainly something we can think about as we think about new procurements for overflow taxi cab services, which are important as we continue to see increased utilization of paratransit services. We're also in the process of testing out a couple of low floor vans, which again improve accessibility of the vehicles. Historically, you'll see more of a raised chassis, but we do have a couple of low floor vans we're trying out in a couple of shuttle routes in a more of our suburban communities. So that's something else we can kind of think about and pilot as we're testing that type of asset as well. But beyond, thinking about additional services, changing hours of services, all those things, that is a function of the advisory board. But happy to pass along concepts and thoughts.
So is there a way that members of the public can present their ideas to the advisory board? I mean, I'm guessing that there is a public comment period or a way to submit ideas to that advisory board.
Yep. So we have public comment, like many standard public meetings.
Okay. All right. And Kate or Liz, is there anything that Josh covered that you wanted to see accentuated or above and beyond what he talked about as a way to improve the service, the paratransit service?
So this is Liz. I think training of staff, and I know, thank you, Josh, for the clarification about the MBTA staff and how the WRTA contracts out services. But I know, having been a paratransit rider since I've been blind, which is 18 years, sometimes I'm on the Odyssey tour. I get picked up and then I'm run around, for long periods of time, or and for those of you that are not familiar with paratransit, right now you have to, if I wanted to go to the university campus for a 9 o'clock appointment, I would have had to call today or previous to today by 4:30 and book it, and then I get a call back, hopefully, saying my pickup window is from 8:30 to 8:50 for that 9 o'clock appointment. So and then I have to station myself where I can be seen, because I could be a no-show. And for me, the difficulty is I can't see the vehicle. So oftentimes the vehicle, I don't know if it's a van or it is the yellow cab, shows up, and the driver may beep the horn. I can hear, but I don't know that beep is for me. So I'm looking for a human being to indicate, roll down the window and say, Elizabeth, so that I know, oh, you're talking to me. And then I need to navigate to the van, because again, not being able to see, I don't know where the vehicle is. I don't know where it is in relationship to me. I don't know if I am getting in on the front seat, the back seat, because I can't see those things. Having a human being trained at least to give me verbal directions would be helpful. So training and etiquette on the etiquette for me is going to be different from the etiquette with somebody with a physical mobility challenge. And so training is really, really important. I yield back.
Thank you, Liz and Kate. Josh, that brings up a point I occurred to me. On the software and on the instructions that the paratransit drivers get, is there a section for notes to have specific instructions like the ones that Liz just listed? Or do the vans just show up and hope that people recognize the vehicle and get on? So is there a notes section, or in the new software, will that be there?
Yeah, let me double check with our contract about what specific notes can and cannot be added. We have to be a little bit cautious about what notes we do put into there for various reasons. But certainly something I can follow back up with the group on.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, we've taken a lot of your time, Josh. It's probably longer than you anticipated, but I appreciate your coming before us and having this presentation and then conversation with our commissioners. And we know that your goal is to improve, and to meet the needs of people as much as you can. And so I appreciate that personally. And if the opportunity comes for us to invite you back, we certainly look forward to that. And if you could provide Patricia with your email, and so she can send that out to the list of the commissioners if we want to communicate with you personally. And if we communicate with you as a commission, we'll send you a formal letter. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity today. Really appreciate it.
Great. We're now going to move on to the next agenda item. We had on our agenda that we were going to have Steve Stolberg discuss something having to do with the Central Mass Housing Alliance, but he's not with us today. So my understanding, Patricia, is we're going to table that until next month. Is that right?
That's correct, Bob.
Okay. So we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is planning for the July
You're muted, Bob.
Maybe frozen.
Bob, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're muted. Bob, can you hear us? Can everyone hear me? This is Patricia.
This is Kate, yes.
Okay. So I don't know what happened with Bob. He's back on. I admitted him again, but I don't know if he's frozen or what.
Yeah, I'm
So-
back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, great. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, I somehow was disconnected. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we're talking about the ADA anniversary, and we had set aside just a few minutes for this agenda item. So what were people thinking on that?
This is Kate. Pat, would you like me to? Okay, so this time last year, well, in January, we are already in communications with the bid regarding the Disability Pride celebration. So this is something that we would like to do again. Then we need to get in communication with the bid. Earlier this time last year in January, they already had kind of everything planned. So if this is something we would like to do, then we need to move forward and go ahead and contact the bid and get the ball rolling again. So I think that's why I was on the agenda. I could be wrong, but if Dawn and Pat want to chime in and if I'm wrong on that, but
No, that's
I yield back.
that's very accurate, Kate. I don't know, if you wanna take the lead on that like you did last year. I think it was highly successful what we had last year. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but basically, we had our entire office staff over there and then many of you. So this year I'd like to see more of it in the hands of the AAC members. Not that we won't be there to support, but, you all driving the participation and the activities that day. And I thought it was a great day.
This is Kate. I don't want to keep talking unless someone else wants to also share any thoughts, but I agree with Pat. We were second in attendance with the bid out of their 10 weeks. I don't have it in front of me, but we had like over 1,000. What's the exact number? 1,565 people. So it was a success. I took the lead on that. I did a lot of the work. I don't mind doing that again, but I would absolutely love some more commissioners to be involved. As you know, everything in a team is always more fun and better. But yes, Pat, can take the lead on that again, but I would love anyone else who would like to help plan it. And then I also got to figure out who would like to initiate the communication with Alex and Victoria at the bid.
I'll go ahead and initiate the conversation with them and then copy you, Kate. And then, if we were to consider someone else, is there someone else who would like to somewhat, co-lead, co-chair this event with Kate to take some of she did an immense amount of work last year. So hopefully we can have another person work on that with her this year. And I don't know if anyone's interested in doing that or not. That would be great.
And Pat, if I could add, if there's anyone who wants to help lead also, and also be part of the planning, sharing ideas about intermission acts and things like that, and nonprofits to involve, I would also, that'd be great too. But if anyone wants to be involved, please
Well, this is Dee.
let us know.
Hi,
Hi,
Dee.
this is Dee. Hi, Kate. This is Dee. Sure, I'd be interested in helping.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Dee.
I will copy the two of you and Dawn on the email over to Alex and Victoria so we can move forward.
Thank you.
And this is Liz Miska. I can't co-chair, but I'm more than happy to lend a hand because I agree that Kate in particular did an awesome job, and much of the success of the day was due to her hard work and her passion. So I just want to reiterate how amazing, what amazing job that she did, and I'm willing to lend a hand as I can.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm also happy to help however I can.
Thank you, Bob.
And thank
Okay.
you.
So what are the next steps for this?
I'll get an email out to the bid and then at least copy Kate, Daria, Liz, and Bob. So just so they know that what's happened, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the rest of the agenda, which is actually very brief. Unless someone else has something they wanted to say about that. Are we all set? Okay. Number 6 is a review of AAB applications and notices. No action was required because there are no city properties, and there were some variances and notices of action that were listed in the agenda, but there's nothing that we as a commission need to do. And I don't believe there's anyone from the public here to comment about any of them, are there, Patricia?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, all right. So I'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is suggestions from members for future agenda items. Are there any suggestions on? Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, so this is Liz. Actually, 2 things of note, and I don't know whether or not that we can seize upon this, but the Worcester Historical Museum, which now has been rebranded as the Museum of Worcester, at the end of December, had a play that the playwright is a disability scholar, and the play looked at, and the theater company, I guess, is associated with Fitchburg State University, and it was Shakespeare, different snippets of different plays. So The Tempest was one, Richard III, Julius Caesar, and I attended, and it was very, very interesting. And I'm going to be interviewing the playwright and the disability scholar who wrote the script on my program. But I thought having them, and evidently they studied, like Shakespeare, having characters who are characters with disabilities, and I thought that was interesting. So I thought that might be interesting for them to come before the commission and talk about their inspiration. The second thing is I was a participant in a forum at the medical school last Friday, and the forum was moderated by a woman who is in the accessibility office at Worcester State University, and she is also a disability scholar. And she framed ableism and disability in such a powerful way. It really was impactful. And she was talking about people with disabilities have to do a lot of administration And the example that she gave was, so you're a person on wheels and you live in the city with a subway, and you know the subway, you only have access to the subway through the elevator. So you plan your route to wherever you're going. You go down in the elevator and the elevator stops and you can't get down. So now you're stuck. Then the elevator. So finally, you go down. Now you've missed your appointment. You go to the next stop and they tell you the elevator there isn't working. So you've got to go beyond that stop to the next stop where there's an elevator, go up on the street. Now you've got to get back to wherever your appointment was. So you have to think about all of these things that a person who is able-bodied and has access to transportation doesn't have to think about these things. And it just, her framing of all of the things that those of us with disabilities have to think about in terms of disability administration, and how mentally taxing that is, how time consuming that is, how expensive that can be. So I thought that she would be a wonderful person to come and at least give this presentation, or at least moderate. And I didn't know if there was any interest in that, because she was absolutely stupendous and terrific. So I just wanted to offer those two things. I think that these are different perspectives than we're accustomed to. So I yield back.
Liz, if you get me that information, email me the contact information, I'll do some looking into that for us.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Thanks. I see a hand up from Kate. Go ahead, Kate.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I have two agenda ideas. One is to continue the conversation of improvements needed on paratransit, or develop a way to continue that conversation. There's a lot more than what Liz said, and I think we should make a plan of how to proceed. The second agenda idea item I had was, in the past, we had Worcester Housing Authority come speak to us. And as some of you may know, they are doing complete renovation of Lakeside. Prior, Lakeside has had zero elevator. And I think may be of interest to us to ensure that Lakeside will become more accessible with this large scale renovation that is occurring. Those are just my two future agenda idea items. I yield back.
Those are great. Thank you, Kate. Any other agenda items? Okay. Not hearing any. We'll go to announcements for the future, and we have a disability presentation coming up on small d/deaf, deaf-blind, and hard of hearing, scheduled for Tuesday, January 27th, which is a week from now, at 11 o'clock, and it's an hour, and it'll be in the Levi Lincoln Chamber. Following that, a couple of weeks later, there's a disability presentation called Disability Etiquette Tips, and that will be held on Tuesday, February 10th, and that will be from 11 to 12 noon in the Levi Lincoln Chamber. The last announcement is the next Accessibility Advisory Commission meeting will be on Tuesday, February 17th at 4:30, and we don't know yet whether that will be virtual or whether that will be in person, but we'll certainly let people know that. In terms of emergency preparedness, for a list of items and helpful tips, the federal website is https://www.ready.gov. And unless there are any last minute comments or questions, I think we're ready for adjournment. Do we have a motion?
To the chair?
Yes, go ahead.
And yeah, Once again, I'd like to talk to the Woo Sox about the stadium.
Would you like
You
to
know,
talk
I
to the
know-
Woo Sox about the stadium?
Yeah, just about the certain things that year after year, they just do not, fix when we tell them to do it.
Okay.
And also,
We have that as a work in progress, John, right now. And in fact, possibly at the next meeting, we'll share their emergency plan, which they gave to us, which I'll let all of you decide what you think about it and then move on from there.
yeah, I went to a concert at Fenway Park, and they had chairs all over the grass and everything. It was a big concert. And before anything even got started, the PA announcer, just said, in a case of an emergency, do this. They had their emergency plan set in case anything happened. That's what they need at Polar Park. They just need to come up with a plan. It's not difficult either. It's not. It's not like there's a ton of exits at Polar Park.
Okay, thank you, John. We'll wait for Patricia to follow up with us to see where the latest status on that is. And in the past, we have visited the park as a commission with a certain number of commissioners and interested parties to see where things stand. And it would be nice, perhaps this year, to actually have a dialogue with them by email ahead of time to point out this is where things have been in the past and these were our priorities. We'd like you to specifically address those in person as well, not just give us a nice tour and then pat us on the back and let us go home.
That's
So,
I'm
essentially,
still
that's
wondering-
essentially what we did last year.
yeah,
And
I know.
the year before, and probably the year before me, and the year before that year. And again, none of these things have been addressed, so, or very in a limited capacity have been addressed, but the serious main ones that have been concerns have not. And this is a work in progress, as I said.
Just
I'm
a thought.
Still wondering if that wheelchair ramp problem has been fixed. It's never been fixed.
Not that I'm aware of. That's a major capital expenditure that last year when we were there, they said they were going to put a deck around it. Well, that didn't pan out. And now we realize that that's not even feasible because it would affect even more space around it than the way it's affected now, that it's basically inoperable or unusable. So it needs a major reconfiguration, that area.
I think they also said they were going to raise up the floor.
Right, I said a deck, that's essentially what, I'm
Oh.
referring to. Yeah, but that is not feasible, is my understanding.
Can someone let me know whether there is a commission that's run by the city of Worcester that oversees the ballpark? I believe there is.
There is.
Dawn and I have been in discussion about that, so let us get back to you on that, okay?
Yeah, I mean, that may be another point of leverage for us rather than to communicate back and forth with their public official, is to actually talk with their commission, which might be another avenue. Okay, well, thank you very much for a productive meeting. I think we should ask for a motion to adjourn and then a second, and then we'll take a roll call vote and be done for the evening.
John Finn, I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I second, that's D, I second it.
Thanks, Dee.
Very good, everyone. So we have a motion to adjourn at 5:51 PM. Roll call, the members present. Chair Bob Bureau,
Aye.
Vice Chair Liz Miska,
Liz Miska votes aye.
Member John Finn,
John Finn votes aye.
Dee Karuna,
D votes aye.
and Kate McGrath.
Kate McGrath, aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 5:51 PM. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll be in touch about those various topics.
Thank you.
Thank you. So long.
Thank you.